Wake up.
I remember one time many years ago when I went on a ski trip with my family, when instead of the regular lodging, we stayed in a cabin. I woke up early to find unfamiliar surroundings. I began wondering, where am I, and how did I get here? I began to feel slightly panicked. I then recounted the events of the day prior and regained my bearings, quelling the panic quickly. This type of occurrence was not common, but did persist into the future. Whenever I was at a friend's house for the night, I would have to figure out where I was, and as time went on, this feeling died down significantly, to the point where my thoughts were along the lines of, wait, oh, that's right, without any sort of discomfort involved. However, I recently had an experience when I wasn't able to answer the question of how did I get here. It took me a while to answer the question of where I was, and my discovery was quite bizarre. I was laying on a table in my high school library, and the sole skylight was permitting some moonlight to pass. Not only was it surprising that I was not in my bed, but I was in college, and my high school was a few states away. Fearing that I wasn't dreaming, I rolled off the table and hid in the shadows to avoid being seen by whatever had brought me here. As my eyes adjusted to the darkness, I noted something rather strange. One part of the library was lined with glass, which allowed me to see into the adjacent hallway, but the windows overlooking the courtyard were pitch black. It was possible that the school had been vandalized, or the windows were covered by some material, but I didn't want to stay in the library, so I went to investigate. I figured I could report the incident when I arrived at my house. I exited the library and tried the door to the courtyard, as nothing was on the inside of the windows, but it was locked. After a brief glance to make sure I was alone, I closely examined the glass in an attempt to determine what was obstructing my view. There didn't seem to be anything on the glass. I almost wanted to say that it was just pitch black outside, but that didn't correspond with the moonlight through the skylight. Mildly frustrated, but still rather frightened, I hurried to the exit and found that the windows of the courtyard were in the same condition as the ones overlooking the courtyard. These doors were not locked, and I was met with a peculiar sight. Past the sidewalk, there was nothing. It was pitch black. I moved closer to the edge, and it looked like that past and beneath the sidewalk, that there was nothing. Unable to resist the notion that my sight was observing what was really in front of me, I grabbed a piece of mulch from beneath the tree and hurled it past the sidewalk. It fell below the sidewalk and out of sight. My knees began to feel weak, so I laid down on the grass to wait out my symptoms of fear. I covered my eyes and breathed deeply in an attempt to remain calm. When I removed my hands from my eyes, it was not what I saw that concerned me. There was no moon hanging above the school. There was no external light source at all. All lights in the school were off. By all accounts, I shouldn't have been able to see, nor should any moonlight have shone through the skylight. There was no help coming for me, as nobody had been notified, and it didn't seem apparent that there was any way to or from the school other than jumping to an uncertain depth. Upon this realization, I decided to search for a phone so I could tell somebody that I was in trouble. I entered the school and tried the main office. Locked. I tried the clinic. Locked. Tried the entire administrative hallway. Locked. I resorted to a hope that a teacher had been careless enough to leave the door unlocked to a classroom. After only a few locked doors, I turned a knob and opened the door. Success. I moved to the phone and picked it up. There was no dial tone. The end of the cord didn't have a bit to plug into the phone jack, so the search continued. After another surprisingly few locked doors, I found another phone and picked up the receiver. A dial tone. Yes, the first number I dialed was my parents, as they still lived in the area. The phone rang once, twice, thrice. The number you have dialed is no longer in service. Huh? I tried a cell phone. Ring, ring, ring. The number you have, the same message. I tried my roommate. Same message. Tried my cousin. Same message. Friends, classmates, random numbers, same message. With each call, I became more and more panicked. How was I going to get home? What was I going to eat? The cafeteria food must be finite. I mean, after all, no deliveries could resupply it. Desperation then overruled practicality. I tried the computer. It turned on. I tried my old username and password. It was gone from the system. I guessed at a teacher's password and got locked out. I shoved the monitor off the desk in rage at technology's failure to do its job. I left the room, but something caught my eye down the hallway once I did so. There was a figure moving very slowly down the hallway. It looked like a person, but the dimensions were all wrong. The hands were disproportionately big, and the shoulders were too broad, its back too twisted. It was hard to tell where the head started and the neck ended. In the dim light, it was hard to tell whether it was muscular or just proportionately bizarre like the rest of its body. To add to the perplexity of the being before me, it also seemed to be the source of the dim light. However, I was not willing to engage this being whatsoever. I tended to back away slowly in order to be as quiet as possible. I didn't make it 3 feet before my knee popped. The sound caused the being to turn around in my direction. A fan of skin, similar to a lizard's, expanded from the being's neck, and bioluminescence began to glow brightly from it, momentarily blinding me as it screamed. Despite my brief lack of vision, I bolted towards the nearest exit. Locked, I immediately gave up and ran to the next one. Open. Not 2 seconds after I had made it to the sidewalk, the creature burst through the doors as well, and the race for my life continued. It was catching up quickly. I cut corners, tried to fake it out, but in the end, the creature's speed was overwhelming. I didn't even make it a lap around the school before it happened. I was rounding a corner, and my foot slipped. I began to scream before I began to fall. I watched the creature look over the edge, and the outline of the school above me became smaller and smaller until I eventually saw nothing. It became harder to breathe the further I fell. Eventually, I passed out. I was surprised to wake up at all. However, I was greeted by an unwelcome sight. I was on a library table once more, and it was still dark. I've fallen 5 times since then. I've jumped 8. I'm writing in this to maintain sanity in this perpetually dark world. It gets smarter. I'm gonna get caught soon. It's not the only thing either. There are more terrifying creatures that chase me. Each time I come back, the place decays a little, and the sidewalk is slowly shrinking. If you find this, if anyone finds this and isn't trapped here, run. I can't hide anymore. I can't run anymore. I lost a leg to one of them. Oh God, they're at the door. I'm as good as dead. I wonder if I'll see this table again.